So when I welded this together, this little hoop together, there's the weld joint right there. I welded it with hard solder, which melts at about, I don't know, 1300 degrees. Now, in order to protect that weld, because when I heat this whole thing up again, I want to weld at a lower temperature. And so the medium solder, and you can see these little cool little containers that my friend John Peter made for me, I don't know, 25 years ago. That one says H for hard, this one says M for medium, and then I have one that says easy. So medium solder melts at about 1100 degrees, so a couple hundred degrees under. Well, actually no, it's about 50 or 60 degrees under. So, you know, and I'm not real up on temperatures. All I know is that it melts at a lower temperature. Now in this case, what we've got is these micro welds. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut some snippets off of a very, very thin, and you can see that, piece of solder. And it comes in little sheets like that, so you can cut snippets from it. And we're cutting medium, and I'm going to just go ahead and just cut a series. There's one. Take, and so it's better to have a couple extra chips laying around. So you can see they're very small. Can you see them? Oh yeah, there they are. They're very small. They're very fragile, but they really, really will hold incredibly well. So let's rotate up to the welding station. You can see it right there. We're going to put our base in. We're going to pick up a prong head, kind of put it in a compression pair of tweezers, get it so that it looks like it's okay. Actually, this one's a little bit wide, so I want to squeeze it in just a tad. Yeah, that's better. We're going to get rid of this third arm here. And that looks pretty good. I'd say that's going to be just about right. Okay, notice how I've got the prong head at just a bit of an angle. And that's of course so that when the head gets welded to it, it has this kind of slight taper outwards so it can pick up the stone. Let's just bring this in a little bit further. First thing we really have to do is put some flux on everything. And a little bit of flux right on the piece itself, or on the prongs themselves. But let's go ahead and put ourselves a couple of snippets right up against our piece. There's one. And there is two. Okay. I know it's pretty small, but you know, we're dealing with small stuff here. So now the piece goes up against there. And snugs up against the base. And that's kind of the official way to do it. But I think the other ones we're going to do it the unofficial way. So we got a pretty nice grip on both of those prongs, and that's pretty good. But the reality of it is that we've got 4 more to put on, and there's not a whole lot of room. And that's, you know, I get anxious about time and effort and all of that stuff. So what I'm going to do is do it the Nick quick, we're going to get it done way, and that is get a little flux on the surfaces, the matching surfaces. All right, we're gonna, well, actually I'm gonna want to take and just file this a little bit, because see how it's gotten a little bit of fire scale on it, and the reality of it is that the fire scale will mess up the welding of it. So I'll be back in a second. I'm gonna get a file. Okay, just a couple of strikes with the file right at the contact point. Put a little flux on there. We're gonna set this down, and we're going to spread out our chips a little bit more, and I'll show you a little trick. Okay, we're going to rotate the camera down. Okay, you can see our chips right in there. What we're going to do, we're going to take our piece that's clamped in the tweezers, and we're going to come into a chip and just heat up one edge until that chip holds on to the bottom. You see it holding? Can you see that? Yeah, sure. Alright, then we just heat that up a little bit till it runs up on the piece. Now it's kind of filled itself onto that one whole side. And do the same thing for the other side. There it is. Do the same. Yeah. All right, now let's come in and rotate this around. There goes one. Well, that's what happens. We got one. Okay, hey, this Nick Collier. It's a couple of days later. We have been sidetracked by about 1,900 other little projects down the line. Where we left this off, and the most frustrating part for me was that notice my little prong setup, double prong setup, one side melted. Dang. But it's not a complete loss, it's just a slight disaster. We're going to get a couple of tools to repair this problem, and we'll be back. So then we just kind of come in and grab that little ball there and cut it. Take a little bit of a file. Just file that flush, and that gets us the beginnings of where we want to go. And then we take a little piece of wire here, and this is one of those places where you go, oh, I'm glad I cut extra chips, because of course we're going to need one. But actually in this case we are going to need an extra chip or two. Let's see if we can back this up a little bit. There we go. And because it's going to be in a place where it could melt once we start to heat everything up, we're going to use a chip of hard solder. And that will go right there. And you can't see, but I'm opening up the the flux jar, and we're going to take and grab our little piece of material that we were going to use for, well, we still are going to use it for the separate prong, and just kind of file the edge flush a little bit. That's good. Come in. I guess we better turn on the torches because they take a while to kind of bleed out. Come in with some flux, grab a little bit of flux on the end of our piece of wire, and we come in and grab that little chip of solder. And I don't know if you can see it there, but it is there, I promise. Well, at least it was there. Yes, it's still there. So at this point we could probably fire up the torch. And we just come in with just a little bit of heat. Uh-oh, we lost our chip of solder. There we go. And that should be it. Yep. That looks pretty good. Oh, well, no, it doesn't look pretty good, does it? It's way off on this direction. Shouldn't be a problem, though. Loosen it up. Drop it back into place. Now it looks good. From all directions. Let's drop it in the water for a sec, just to cool everybody off. And we've got a nice piece of solder already, or I mean of wire already back in place, ready to go. All we need to do is cut the bottom off, which is what we're going to do right this second. Cut the bottom off. And then, of course, we need to file that flat so that this will sit up against it. And let me go get a file. I'll be right back. All right, and we take a pair of pliers or a pair of needle nose, and we just rotate this around till it touches. But there's always a little bit of spring back, so what we have to do is kind of rotate it around and wiggle it back and forth until the spring back goes away. And that looks pretty good. Let's see if we can just kind of bend it out just a little bit. Nice. Now notice that this one is nice and narrow and this one's pretty wide, so we're going to have to bring this in a bit. But that's, you know, that's part of the process. There we go. A little bit high. So, come down and bend this top edge down because we're not going to use the whole top edge. There we go. That should do the trick. A little bit narrower. Oops, too narrow. And that looks pretty good. I mean, it's a mess, but you know, you'll see later on that it'll straighten right out and everything will be everybody will be happy. Now what I noticed is that this is welded. This little joint right here is welded, but not very well, is it? So we'll have to come back in and put another little tab of solder in that too. But as far as I can tell, we are ready to go ahead and weld this part up here. And since we're here, we can a little flux, of course. And let's get a little more water in our flux here. And it looks like we can just kind of drop a chip right in here and a chip right in there and weld the two up without too much effort. Keep your fingers crossed. One chip right there. One extra one right there. I think we might have it. Now, what I didn't do last time, what I'm going to do this time is let's take this flame down really pinpoint. So we've got, the blue is probably about 3,000 degrees, but it's so small that it's just going to heat up one little section at a time. So then we don't end up with that lost, with the heat spreading out and melting everything rather than just what I want to melt. Okay, a little bit more. All right, that took. And then we'll do this upper one. And that took. All right. Nice.